Hi, I'm Tina Sibley, and a very warm welcome to this webinar all about Evergreen automated webinars. Now, webinars are the single most effective way of selling anything online. And that's not just a bold statement. Throughout the course of this webinar, I'm going to show you exactly how and why that statement is true. Everybody who's making a 6 or 7 figure income online are doing so through using webinars as part of their toolkit, and you should be using webinars too. Now, webinars are an essential part of any online business development, whether that's just a tool to build your list, whether you want to get your customers to buy from you for the first time, or whether you're selling high ticket items. So by the end of this webinar, you're going to know exactly what you need to get the best results from your webinars and start getting the results and income that you want. So that means more leads, more clients, and more income. Now, when you signed up for this webinar, you were given an email, you were sent an email where you were given the download link to a worksheet. If you've got that in front of you, I want you to start filling it in because that will help you retain the information. And then when the webinar is over, I want you to actually start implementing it, not just passively watch this webinar and think, oh yeah, that's interesting. I want you to actually take action on it. All right, so before we get into anything, I'm just going to bring my slides up and then I want to ask you a few questions. So the first question is quite simply, how confident do you feel about running live webinars right now? If 0 is not confident at all and 10 is totally confident, write down the number where you're feeling in terms of your confidence right now. Okay, next question is your results. What kind of results have you been getting from webinars? Now, obviously, if you haven't started yet, that's going to be a 0. If you've been getting amazing results, that's going to be a 10. So write down what figure you would say that your results represents your results right now. And if you've scored anything 7 or below for either of these questions, then you are definitely in the right place because I'm going to help you both build your confidence and your results too. So pay full attention as what you're going to learn is going to change absolutely everything. I'm going to show you exactly how you can easily earn 5 figures from webinars, and even better, I'm going to show you how you can do this the easy way. A way where you do the work once and then you get paid consistently over and over again on autopilot. So how cool is that? Now, again, if you stay to the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a download link where you can get your hands on a checklist and planning template that's going to help you to run successful and profitable webinars. And I'm also going to let you know about how you can work with me further. And if you do choose to do so, you'll get a very special discount only available to people who are on this webinar. So this webinar is for you if you'd like to start attracting clients and making sales the easy way. But let's go a little deeper. Now, I don't know why you showed up to this webinar today, but there was a reason for it. So I want you to write that down in your workbook or notebook right now. Is it because you're brand new to webinars and you find the whole idea daunting? Or it might be that you've been running webinars, but you find them time consuming and you're just not getting the kind of results that you want. Perhaps you are getting some results, but you just know you can do better. Either way, I'm sure that what you want to do is attract more clients and make more sales. So perhaps you're here because you're absolutely great at what you do, but you're still not getting enough clients. Maybe you're fed up of those endless rounds of offline networking, but you don't seem to be getting anywhere. I know that's something that certainly I went through. Perhaps you're wasting time and money and you're not seeing a return on your investment. You don't even have a big subscriber list yet. Perhaps you're just not making the income you need, supplementing what you're doing with other jobs that you absolutely can't stand doing because you just can't get enough clients doing what you love. It might well be that what all that leads to is a kind of you're starting to lack confidence in your ability. And perhaps you could be feeling that you're not just making the difference, that you want to. A lot of us start out in business because we want to make a difference to other people. And if you're not doing that, that can be very frustrating. And it kind of leaves you feeling that you're not walking your talk. You know that webinars are the answer, but there's so much to learn, and maybe the whole thing just quite simply terrifies you. So I'm guessing what you'd like instead is a massive subscriber list, to find webinars easy and enjoyable to run, to have attendees rushing to hit that buy now button, to have a process that really easily converts leads into higher paying clients so that you can finally begin making that difference to other people, and so that you can finally have that income and lifestyle that you've promised yourself, and in doing so become a great role model walking your talk. Now, if all of that is true, you need a vehicle to get from wallowing around in the treacle to becoming a superstar. And what you need is the ability to run profitable webinars. So if that's for you and you want to learn how to finally attract clients, make sales, increase your income on a consistent basis, easily and even on autopilot, then you are definitely in the right place. Now that might sound a little bit too good to be true for some, so get ready, because I'm going to reveal exactly how this can be done. Now, it's long been recognised that speaking to live audiences is a really effective way of establishing yourself as a credible authority in your field and to build up expert status. But the trouble is, getting live speaking engagements can be difficult and it can be a lengthy process. And on top of that, there are loads of advantages to speaking online through webinars. So let's take a look at some of them. For a start, webinars are so much easier than live events because they are quick, easy, and cheap to test. If you come up with an idea for a product, it means that you can find out if that is just a pie in the sky idea that you've dreamt up and that actually nobody really wants, or you can find out if people are going to go for it. So if you decide, right, well, okay, let's run a webinar on X topic, then you're going to find out soon enough whether or not people are interested or not. Quite simply, if they register for it, they're interested, and if they don't, they're not. Or it means you're putting it in front of the wrong target audience, so you need to do a bit of work on finding out where your target audience actually hang out. It means that you can act quickly to take advantages of opportunities. I mean, you can literally run with a webinar within a week. Just to give you an example of this, obviously being the webinar diva, I want to keep up to date with all the new software that's coming out. And not too long ago, there was a product launch which was called Webinar Jam, and I was able to very quickly just run a webinar on Webinar Jam, what I thought about it, just put it through its paces, give it a review really, really quickly. There's no way you can do that with live events. One of the big things with live events is that there's so many hassles when it comes to room hire. You've got to book so far in advance. They've got all sorts of policies that tie you into contracts and that kind of thing, and you've got to give them a massive amount of notice if you want to cancel. So you've got loads of costs and cancellation charges to navigate your way through. There's so much less hassle for people to attend. There's no childcare or parking issues. There's no extra time for your delegates, and extra time or expense in terms of travel and accommodation. You've got no geographical constraints. You can reach a totally global audience. Some people will actually travel quite a long way to attend a live webinar. Some people, you'd be lucky if they travel half an hour up the road. You don't have those issues with a webinar because people can listen to them in the comfort of their own home or office. So that, or even through a mobile device while they're on the train or something. It's a really cool way of doing it. There's no need to have a crew to look after the delegates while you're busy, running off attending to what you need to attend to, which is your presentation. And for a start, they're also a lot less daunting to deliver than live seminars. A lot of people find standing up and speaking in front of a large live audience, quite intimidating. And finally, webinars really do convert and make sales. And I don't know, there's something about a webinar that I find that does that even more effectively than live live events. So why are webinars the most effective way of selling online? I mean, obviously seminars are offline, and there are a lot of different ways of actually selling to people online. So let's go through webinars versus the other online methods, and you will see I've used the old boxing punch glove here, because webinars do pack a punch when it comes to competing with the other methods. Okay, so let's go through them. The first method, and this is a method that a lot of people do when they first start online, is that they basically set up a sales page for their product and then they drive traffic to it. Now, this is the ultimate in generating income while you sleep, isn't it? Because it means that once you've set this up, if you've got your traffic, running on autopilot, you can actually earn passive incomes online. But can you? I mean, first of all, you have to have a really, really good copywriter to get your sales page converting from cold. So, people have just come across you, they perhaps don't know you from Adam. Unless you've got good copy, nothing's going to happen. Now, a good copywriter can be very expensive. But literally, without knowing how to write good copy or being able to afford somebody to do it for you, you're literally dead in the water. The big problem is, even with a good sales page, the industry standard conversion rates are somewhere between 0.5% and 2%. Now, in my book, that's a lot of traffic disappearing off into the sunset. And let's face it, getting traffic isn't easy and it can cost. So you don't want to be losing, over 98% of them, having got them there in the first place. So let's have a look at method 2. Now, this is where you set up, you drive traffic still, but then you drive them, instead of a sales page, you drive them to a squeeze page where you get people to opt in for a free ebook. This is my squeeze page actually, where people can sign up for a free ebook all about killer presentations, and you collect somebody's name and email address. And then rather than trying to sell them to them straight away, you set up an email campaign and you send them emails with lots of nice tips and information. And then you would send them to a sales page where you put your offer in front of them. Now, this is infinitely better because at least you're gathering names onto your list, as opposed to just sending somebody to a direct sales page where most of them just disappear again. The only trouble is that it's kind of, it's coming to the point where we're getting so many emails now that it's actually becoming more difficult to get noticed. Now, there are loads of figures giving you details that there's anything between 7 and 21 touches that somebody needs before they'll buy from you. So, it depends on the length of your email campaign, how successful you are. But it's still a hit and miss method, and conversions can still be very low because, like I just said, the effectiveness of these emails are diminishing because we all get so many of them these days, and your email just may get lost amongst all the others that people get. This method works so much better when, instead of driving your subscribers to a sales page, you drive them instead to a webinar. So what you do is you capture their details by offering them a freebie, then you send them a little email campaign giving them lots of tips, and if you then send them to a webinar instead of just straight to a sales page, you'll probably get much better results. Okay, the next method is these big hypey product launches. I'm sure you've all seen them. Typically you get a series of videos and then you get sent to a sales page at the end of the video. Now, there's no doubt that for many these work. You've only got to look at some of the great big launches by the likes of Jeff Walker and Brendan Burchard to see how effective these can be. And the launches of products such as Video Genesis and Webinar Jam by Mike Filsame and Andy Jenkins were massively successful. But these work fine when you have a ton of high-profile joint venture partners. But what about when you don't? It's cool for these people to say, yes, these product launches work, and that's because these people have been going a while and they've built up a lot of contacts. They've got a lot of joint venture partners who'll be willing to promote these product launches for them. But even if you do have those contacts and you can drive a lot of people to, through your product launch, there are some downsides too. First of all, they can be very taxing on your team and your resources, and even more so if you're all by yourself. You've got problems with potentially too many customers jumping on board all at once, because what this can do is create bottlenecks for support and fulfillment. So, you know, all those people who can't find their login details because it's gone into their spam folder, or they've lost their password, or just something doesn't work. It can really create big problems for you, because with a new product and product launch, there's always bugs and teething issues to iron out. Things like, I mean, just to give you an example, when I first started my Wicked Webinars product, I was using some new software, and unbeknown to me, I had a problem with the software kept resetting itself. I used PayPal as my method of payment, but it kept reverting to credit card through merchant account. And I hadn't got that set up, because I just stick to PayPal because I find that works for me. But it kept reverting, so nobody bought, and somebody eventually emailed me and said, I want this product, but I can't make it work. The payment process doesn't work. Now, can you imagine if you're doing that on a big hypey product launch and everybody does that all at once? That is just going to be, your biggest nightmare. Another big problem with these hypey product launches is that all affiliates have to promote you at the same time. And this can be really annoying for people on multiple lists. Now, if you're anything like me, you've signed up for a lot of different people's stuff. And what that means is that, and the internet is quite a small world, everybody kind of joint ventures with each other. So because I've signed up for so many people, when you get a big product launch coming out, I get that same information, I get that same email from loads and loads of different people, and they clog up my inbox because I get all this information from so many different people, and it can really be annoying. Now, the other problem with the big product launch is it's all or nothing. When it's over, it's over. If you've ever done a product launch with a buy before date, and then when that date comes and you haven't made any sales, you kind of left high and dry, and then you think, well, now what? That's it, it's over, and now I'm sort of stuffed because I've said that was the end date. And because of all that, because everything has to happen by a launch date, and then usually there's a period that the launch is on for, you end up operating in that urgent and important zone, which is very stressful, and it can be totally exhausting. So instead, I prefer the webinar presentation method, because it's just by far so much easier and more effective. Even those sort of doing big product launches, and certainly the squeeze pages, if you use webinars in conjunction with that, then it's going to be so much more effective. But let's have a look at why webinars are so effective at selling. Well, the reason that they're so good is that they use many of the principles used in the report and the study that was done by Robert Cialdini. Now, Robert Cialdini, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I think he's Italian, so it might be pronounced differently. But anyway, this study was done, crikey, it must be about 10 years ago now. And he wrote this book, The Psychology of Persuasion. It's all about influencing. And the reason that webinars are so good, it uses all of these principles. So let's have a look at the principles. Well, first of all, webinars really help to increase the know, like, and trust factor, which is principle 6, liking. It's easier for your potential customers to get to know who you are and make up their minds about whether or not they want to do business with you. Webinars usually are all about giving great content, which people can see that you are indeed an authority on your subject. So that kind of obviously comes with principle number 3, which is authority. And also, because webinars give great confidence and give great content, and other giveaways as well, like for example at the end of this one I'm giving away that planning template. what you do is you build up a connection with your audience, and also what that does is it creates a feeling of reciprocity, which increases the likelihood of people buying from you. So you've got principle, one coming into play here as well. And then what you can do is a lot of webinars show people an attendee list. And what they do is very often at the beginning of a live webinar, people very often, welcome people from places all around the world. And what this does is it increases authority, which is principle 3 in place again, and also social proof, principle 5, because people can see that there's loads of people who are on the webinar and think, hey, this is obviously a lot of people think this is great. So if they all think it's great, then that's good enough for me. Then again, if your webinar presentation is structured correctly, and if you properly position your product to fulfill your audience's need, then this triggers the need to act with consistency. Now, what I mean by that is we kind of like to behave in a way that's consistent with our values and with what we believe. So let's say, for example, and I did this, I'll make no, I won't hide this fact, but at the beginning, I kind of said, well, why are you here? What do you want? Do you want to, is your confidence perhaps and your results not that great? And what that means is you don't have enough clients. And I'm guessing what you'd like instead is you'd like to attract lots of clients and all the rest of it. And I get you to agree, yes, that's exactly what I want. Now, then kind of when I say, well, I've got the solution, you're in this place, you don't like it, you want to be in this place instead. I've got the solution that will get you from A to B. So, it makes total sense for you to get this solution. It kind of doesn't act with consistency if you say, no, I agree with all that, but I'm not going to do it. So this is why webinars are so effective at getting sales, if that makes sense. And I'm kind of giving away a little bit here. The techniques, but I think you need to know them, because this is how you're going to literally turn your results around. Finally, most webinars come with special offers, and a lot of the time there are limited time frames. So it might be the first 10 to act, or only available to webinars, only available to webinar attendees and all that kind of thing. And of course, what this does is it triggers scarcity. So that's principle 2. So, you only get these bonuses if you sign up before this time and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so those are the principles which are in place, and it's really, really clever. Now, remember I told you that earlier on, if you just set up a sales page and then you drive traffic to it, that the conversion rates are just anywhere between 0.5% and 2%. Well, with webinars, it is perfectly possible to get huge conversion rates, even on high ticket programs. On high ticket programs, it's quite common to get conversion rates anything between 5 and 15%. And for a lower ticket product that you're selling, you can get conversion rates of anything between 20% and 55%. And I'll let you into a little secret here too. That's not just for the big gurus who've been in this for a while and have got all those great big joint venture partners selling, sending people to your webinars. I've achieved up to 55% conversion rate myself. And, I'm, certainly not a Brendan Burchard or a Jeff Walker or a Frank Kern. I'm just kind of still at the beginning of my internet career. And yet somebody like me who is as yet not a massive name and as yet is just starting on my journey, and I've achieved 55% conversion rates from selling from webinars. So if I can do it, you can do it too. And this is one of the reasons why I say webinars really truly are the easiest and most effective way of selling anything online. And they will really help you to move from where you are now to where you want to be. However, there are downsides too. As much of a fan I am of webinars, there is no getting away from the fact that live webinars can be a lot of work and they can be very tiring. Being live means that you can easily ramble on. You can go off topic and yield different results that aren't consistent. And believe me, I love to talk, and I've been very guilty of this one myself. Timing isn't always great for your client because very often on a live webinar, you run it at a particular time and people are in different time zones. So if you're catering for an international audience, there are going to be times when people can't make it. I mean, I just saw a webinar today that was advertised that I'd love to go to, but for me, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and as much as I'm, committed to my business and to learning, I don't really want to be on a webinar live, from 2 o'clock until maybe 3:30 in the morning. So to cater for everybody, if you're going to be running live webinars, you need to run more of them at different times, which means that could be creating an awful lot more work for you. Also, live webinars can clash with other webinars that people want to attend or other commitments that they've got going on, family stuff, and all that kind of thing. And then invariably, you've got the technology issues. This is one of the big things that scares so many people. And I'm not going to lie to you, technology issues happen. Even the pros who've been doing webinars on a regular basis for years experience techno issues. It's just one of those things that can't be helped, and you just have to get your head around dealing with it. So there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to get your head around. And there are also so many things you have to remember. But the checklist I'm going to give you at the end will help with this. Whether you're running live or automated webinars, stick around because that checklist really will help you. The thing is, all of this can leave you feeling a little stressed about the idea of running live webinars. And for many, it leaves them thinking, I know that they're good, but no thanks. And this is where I have the solution for you. The good news is that there is an easier way, and that solution is automated evergreen webinars. So fortunately, you don't have to run live webinars. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think that live webinars are a good idea. They're in fact they're not a good idea, they're a great idea. And it is something that you should aim to get to running once you feel more confident and once you're more used to it. But don't let the kind of intimidation and all the problems of live webinars put you off from getting started with webinars in the first place. Although live webinars convert best and infinitely better than recordings, evergreen webinars do behave very much like the real thing. So they have a much higher conversion rate than recordings. For one thing, people are more actually likely to attend because they've chosen a time convenient to them. Because what you do is you can set up the webinar so that it's like still people make an appointment. When you've got a recording, it's like, oh, well, I can listen to that anytime. And then invariably then you don't. But with an evergreen live, with an evergreen webinar, it's almost like, because people choose when, they still set that appointment and they still are more likely to show up than they are to listen to the recording. So the advantages then is, instead of having a hit and miss live performance, what you do is you record the webinar through a video so that you can practice and tweak so that you get the best presentation possible. Now remember, it still needs to be natural and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can take as many takes as you want to get it right, and then you can edit out mistakes and long pauses or ums. You can keep on improving your webinar, and you can change the video anytime you want to once your webinar has been set up. That actually is fairly easy to do. And what that means is you can iron out any bugs and teething issues with a new product on a smaller audience first, so you can kind of test it on, just get a few people to go to the webinar and test the process. And then when you know it's all working brilliantly, you can then, go full out and start driving larger volumes of traffic to it. The great thing is you can set your automated webinars to run in your audience's own time zone, wherever they are in the world. So you haven't got any of this problem with, well, yeah, this is perfect for those in the UK and it's not too bad for those across the pond in the States and Canada, but actually it's not that great for the Far East and Australia. So all of those problems can be overcome. And you can run the webinar multiple times a week. You can even run them every day of the week if you want to, and even multiple times a day. So it's one of those things where people really can choose to attend your webinar when it's convenient for them. And the other thing that you can do is you can block out holidays like Christmas. I mean, nobody's going to run a webinar like, 3 times a day on Christmas Day. So it appears more real. You can also work with one JV partner at a time if you want to. And the other thing that you can do within the software is you can set it up so that your JV partner shows on the registration page, and also that they kind of have a little special introduction that all can be set up. And all of this can also be done on autopilot, so you haven't even got to manually do that every time. The great thing as well about Evergreen automated webinars, you can collect analytics for every single part of the process. So you really can keep on improving the bits that need improving until the webinar is just completely nailed and becomes a money-making event that just runs and runs and runs and runs. And instead of having these hypey launches, which you can only do so many times a year, the great thing is that with an Evergreen webinar, it's always available and your product is always available, which means that it brings in consistent, regular, passive income while you're, doing better things, whether that's, working in your business or sleeping or spending time on the beach. All you have to do is, when you are awake and you're not on holiday, is just keep driving the traffic. So how cool is that? So the question is, when do you need to start running automated webinars? Either instead of or as well as live ones. Webinars that are going to help you to earn passive income while you get on with other things. Well, quite simply, the time is right now. Why on earth would you want to continue working hard and getting no results when you could transform life for more clients and for yourself too? How long do you want to take to go from wallowing around in the treacle to being an absolute superstar? I mean, what would be the cost to your credibility and your success if you don't make changes in your business? Because people want to follow and learn from successful people. If it costs £1,000 or a couple of $1,000 for a solution that's going to give you the ability to earn potentially over £10,500 or in excess of $16,000 from a webinar with a formula that's easily replicated on autopilot, I mean, wouldn't that be worth it? Really, there is no time to wait. The time to do this, guys, is now. Now, the thing is, how on earth do I learn to do all of this? Well, there's lots of different ways that you can learn how to run successful automated webinars. For a start, you can do it by watching others, but often this is not a good idea, as too many are totally clueless and you don't always know who are going to be the good ones from the bad ones. And believe me, I have made that mistake myself. And a bit like that, I couldn't resist that picture of the dog, on the computer. I have no idea what I'm doing. I think he's rather cute, isn't he? The other thing that you can do is you can learn from business coaches who are good at what they do, but who've never been trained in presentation skills or in specific webinar skills, let alone how to pass that skill on to others. This really is a specialist topic. You can learn from books or articles, where you can't ask questions about your own business. To me, that doesn't make sense. And, to me, you want to learn from somebody who does know what they're doing. And that kind of brings me to me telling you a little bit about my Wicked Webinars membership, which will guide you through my profitable webinar blueprint. I'll tell you a little bit more about this a bit later on, but basically what I've put together is a blueprint around 5Ps that will bring you the results that you're looking for. And that's whether you're using live or automated webinars. I've brought together a combination of proven theories that work for many of the most successful webinar hosts in the business. Trust me, I have spent a lot of time and a lot of money learning this stuff so that it works for me and so that I can pass it on so that it works to you. And I've also added in insights from my own experiences, because believe me, I've made a lot of mistakes. So it really is a question of, I've made the mistake so you don't have to. And each of us is different, but I've designed this so you can implement the learning in your own way that is going to be applicable to your own business, your own niche, and your own situation. And that's exciting because it means you can learn to make a real impact. Finally, you can get noticed and line yourself up for more clients and the income that that's going to bring about. So I'm going to tell you shortly exactly how you can make that really good profit. But let me first of all tell you a bit about me and why I feel I'm qualified to help you in this direction. Well, a bit of personal stuff first. I live in Plymouth in the southwest of England in the UK, which is absolutely beautiful. That picture on at the bottom left is literally 2 minutes walk away from where I live. My big passion is dancing because I think it's so much important to have fun in our lives, and I love doing that on especially on the waterfront. But I've got a dream too. My dream is to move to Gibraltar because while I love Plymouth and the sea, we don't get enough sunshine as far as I'm concerned. So that's my dream. So what I want to do is inspire you to work towards, whatever your dreams are, and I think it's important to connect personally, and for you to know who I am as a person and what my flaws are and what my dreams are as well. Now, talking about flaws, I trained as a coach. Well, I've been my background was in training and development in the corporate world, and then I trained as a coach in 2002, and I started doing speaker training from 2003. But I had all the qualifications going. I did the life coaching, the business coaching, the NLP, the you name it, I did it. But in terms of my earning potential, I absolutely bombed. I just basically wasn't making a good living from it. And I started off doing associate work. I actually did, earn loads when I first started out. I was one of the most sought after trainers on the associate network that I was working with. But then they lost their contract, and all of a sudden we were all out of work, and I was going it alone, and that was it. I was like, high and dry. The reason was because I was a great coach, I was a great trainer, but in all honesty, I was total crap when it came to selling myself. It was great when other people were getting the work for me, but what I couldn't, I really sort of wasn't great at getting the clients myself. I had a choice of moving from my beloved seaside and moving to inland to a bigger city, or somebody gave me, the heads up about going online. So I chose to work online. And what did I do? I made the same mistakes because believe me, I've done it all. I've given the free talks, I've given the free coaching sessions, I've done the free training workshops, hoping that if people like what I do enough, and if they could see that I was a good egg and a genuine person, that people would just buy from me. And it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry to say, it just doesn't work like that. And when I went online, I did the same thing. I gave a lot of free webinars, and again, gave a lot of free stuff away, and still kind of, totally bombed. In fact, I bombed so much that I ended up in a situation where I ended up splitting up with my husband. We had accumulated a lot of debt, which was all in my name, partly because of a very bad property decision and partly because I just wasn't earning enough. And I went bankrupt. There's no nice way of saying that, but it was really tough. And I decided, you know what, something's got to change. So what I did was I took a load of work, doing what I didn't want to do, but it gave me the money to invest in learning how to do this properly, and in particular to invest in learning how to sell my knowledge and my expertise, how to put it together, how to really sort of turn that corner from just giving free talks after free talks and free webinars and not earning anything. And I invested quite heavily in myself and went on mentoring and programs. And then I applied what I'd learned. And the first time I applied what I'd learned in a new webinar that I ran, that's where I suddenly got blown away by earning £10,500, which is equivalent to just over $16,000 just from one webinar in 1 month. I mean, I cannot tell you how that made me feel in terms of going from earning, hardly anything at all to suddenly earning a good income. And what that did was it gave me a cash injection, and it gave me a regular monthly income doing what I love, which is helping people with getting clients through speaking, and speaking online as well as offline. And now I am on track towards, my first six-figure income. Not there yet, but I am so on the right track, and I'm so happy, and that's what I want for you guys. So if you have showed up to this webinar because you want to learn how to attract more clients and make more income, you're so in the right place. You're just the people I want to help. And what I'm going to do over the next part of this webinar is to show you exactly how I've done that. So are you ready? Are you ready to get out of those starting blocks and get going, to stand out and become recognized as a credible authority in your field, and to begin attracting clients so that you're remembered, so that you get referrals from other people? I mean, it was just so brilliant for me when I started putting into practice what I'd learned, and then suddenly I'd be networking at a conference, and I'd be talking to somebody, and then before I know it, somebody that I know is coming up to me with another person in tow saying, Tina, I must introduce you to, because this person needs your help. I mean, you cannot get a more powerful recommendation than that. So what I'm going to teach you is going to help you to be remembered so that you get referrals. Are you ready to become the go-to person in your field? Because if you're ready, I'd like to introduce you to my Wicked Webinars Profitable Webinar Blueprint. Now, this blueprint was going to guide you through the process of running profitable webinars from start to finish, bringing you the results that you're looking for. It's available monthly through memberships at $37 a month, or it's going to be $397 lifetime membership. Now, this is just something which for me what I learned turned my life around, and I know that running through this will turn your life around as well in terms of getting clients. And what I'm going to do is, although as I said, the full membership is $37 a month, I'm going to share some stuff with you and some key tips right now for absolute free. So this is where you need to really get your worksheet out and start scribbling. Okay, so like I said, there are 5 P's to it, and as you can see on the screen here, it's all about planning, presentation, the right platform, promotion, and then ultimately how you profit from your webinars. Now, I obviously don't have time to cover all of this in more detail, as well as what I've already told you about running webinars instead of other types. Otherwise you'd be here for hours and hours, and I'm sure that's not what you want. All of this stuff is covered obviously in a lot more depth in my Wicked Webinars membership site, but what I'm going to do now is give you a whistle-stop tour, put my teeth back in, a whistle-stop tour, and give you some really top tips for each of these points so that you have got something to get going with straight away. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on numbers 2 and 5, the presentation and the profit, which I believe are going to be more valuable for you in this particular webinar. So step 1 then is planning. a lot of people just throw a webinar together on a random topic that they think is going to work. And I know this is a mistake that I made in the very beginning. And then they wonder why they don't get positive results. It is absolutely essential to work out a complete webinar strategy and prepare for it properly. And this means a strategy where you work out when you're going to run live webinars, when you're going to, what you're going to do with your automated webinars and all that kind of stuff. When I first started, I ran loads of webinars on all manner of topics, all relating to, my topic of presentation skills, both online and offline, but none of them kind of lined up in an overall process. And then what I started doing is selling, different small products at the end of each one of these, and I got very limited results. I'd sell like $37 here, $47 somewhere else, $27, somewhere else. And it was an awful lot of hard work for, quite frankly, very little reward. And I got very disheartened and disillusioned and wondered what the hell I was doing wrong. So if you neglect the strategic planning part, you're going to end up doing what I did, working very hard, yielding very little return, as you run the risk of becoming disheartened and then losing confidence. There's a whole pile of questions you need to be asking yourself when you're doing your planning, and the answer to these questions take thought. Now, as I've said, I don't have time to cover all of this on this particular webinar, but they're all covered in depth in the program. But for now, some questions that I want you to start thinking about to help you with your planning are: how will webinars fit with my overall business strategies? Should I run live webinars? Should I go through that pain barrier and learn how to do them? Or are automated the best for me? And a lot of this depends entirely on your audience and your niche and all that kind of thing. How often should I run the webinars? So whether they're live or automated, how often should I make them available? How often, particularly with live webinars, you want to be looking at, the time factor in which is concerned. And what should my webinars be about? Now, your webinars need to be linked into the products that you're selling, not on some random topic that's of interest, but it really needs to fit in with the product that you're selling. And that's so important. Okay, so the second P then, oops, I forgot to move my slide on there. Never mind. Okay, so like I said, planning is essential but often overlooked. So you really do need to, be thinking about these things. And as I said earlier, when it comes to planning, I'm going to give you this template at the end, which will be very helpful. Okay, so the next thing then, presentation. There is so much work involved in putting a webinar together, and the other 4 Ps are critical. But if you get all of those steps right, and then you have a lousy presentation, all of your hard work in the other areas will have been for nothing, and you won't get sales. There are 5 key stages to producing a killer presentation. Okay, I'm going to go through these in a little bit of detail. So first of all, you've got construct. Now, okay, be honest with me here, guys. Who starts putting their presentation together with their slides? Yeah, you start with a blank slide, and then you kind of start doing your presentation there. Well, you're not on your own if that's what you're doing, but let me tell you, it is a big mistake. The first thing you have to start with is a construction plan. Now, the free gift that I'm going to give you at the end will help you with your planning, and that is something that is going to be very useful and to help you with your construction. What you have to do though is you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's not just a cursory introduction and then your topic and then a sort of cursory conclusion with a kind of rushed sales pitch. You have to actually start with the end in mind. So actually, you start with the end, then you do the beginning, and then you do the body, which is the bit that gets you from A to B. So what you have to do is think about, what do I want people to, think, feel, and do at the end of the webinar? And then what you have to do is make sure you've got a strong, compelling call to action in place. Then once you've done that, you have to start with a beginning that's going to give audience lots of reasons to take notice. And then the body is the sandwich, if you like, the filling that gets from A to B. So if you remember on the beginning, I kind of told you that webinars are the single most effective way, and I said that I was going to back that statement up, and then we kind of talked about the fact that it could we looked at your confidence levels. So if your confidence or your results were anything less than 7, then you're in the right place. Okay, these are all designed to really get people engaged, to think, well, actually, yes, I do need to learn what's on this webinar. Once you've done your construction, you need to then craft a script, all the words, and then basically what you have to do is make sure you time it. And this is where you work out what you're going to include, what you're going to leave out, and how your webinar presentation fits with your offer. And then you still at this stage don't go anywhere near a slide. Once you've written a script, you've drafted a script, then what you need to do is bring it to life. So to do that, this is where you're now going to create your slides, put in stories, metaphors, get familiar with it so that it flows. And in fact, get very familiar with it so that you can begin to work on the next step, which is how you charm people. Now, the charm is all about the delivery, okay? And this is where it's a good idea, once you've written your script so that you can time it, you know what you're going to say, this is where you can actually ditch the script. Yes, you've worked hard on writing it, but now what you want to do is deliver from the heart. You don't want to be reading. It sounds, I'm sure you've attended webinars yourself where damn well that people are reading from a script, because it sounds like you're reading a story, and that's not what you want to come across. It'll come across as boring and it just won't sound right at all. So what you have to do is, work around your slides and bullet points, but then practice speaking it from the heart. You know what you want to say. You don't have to read, your script out word from word. You can keep a skeleton script handy so that you can remember everything and make sure that you say stuff in the right order. The most important part, though, about increasing your charm is to be yourself. You can't be somebody else. Don't try and see a speaker that you think is amazing and that you admire. You just have to be yourself. Now, the final part is continuous improvement. And what you do is you don't do loads and loads and loads and loads of different webinars on different topics. The mistake that I made in the beginning. You take the same presentation and you work it. Even for automated webinars, you just keep improving it, and then you gradually look at where it can be better, and then you put a new video in place where you've upgraded it and made it better and all that kind of stuff. The professional speakers who look amazing, and incidentally they look as though it's the first time they've delivered that speech because they even have mistakes and ad libs in there, trust me, that is all engineered and it is all worked. They deliver the same presentation over and over and over again, which is why they're so good at it. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. Again, there's heaps and heaps more information how to do each of these C's in the Wicked Webinars program, and particularly as well about how you need to structure your presentation so that it is designed to sell. Okay, the next thing that we need to consider is your platform. There are so many webinar platforms out there now, and there's no such thing as the best. It all basically is determined by what suits the style of your presentation, your audience, and indeed your own style. A lot of people choose a platform based on what everyone else is doing, but that's not necessarily the right thing for you. It could be that the platform you normally use might not be right for a particular style of presentation. So, for example, a guy I know, he's a professional speaker, and he's normally used to speaking on stage. And he was doing a webinar, and he loves to basically act as though he's doing it live. So he likes to have a webcam with him presenting with a whiteboard behind him, where people can see him scribbling on the whiteboard and all that kind of stuff. And he was using GoToWebinar. and he activated the webcam. So it was okay on the live presentation, but then what he found was that afterwards with the replay, GoToWebinar does not record the webcam. It only records your screen or your slides. Not good. So if you don't choose the right platform, you could be missing out on vital rapport building with your audience. Okay, so let's have a look at the different. There are literally loads of platforms to choose from, and I haven't got time to go through all of them here and now. Otherwise, you know, this is going to be an incredibly lengthy. It's already quite long, but it'll be even a longer webinar. Okay, one of the things that I like, for example, is this particular interface, because it means that I can run live chat, you can see me, and you can see my slides all at the same time. And that's actually, for me, the nearest thing that I can get to a live training room. This interface, by the way, is designed by guys called GVO, and it is the interface that is used on something that I also use called Meetcheap and Evergreen Business Systems Live. Okay, but there are loads and loads of different webinar platforms to choose from. As I said, it depends on the reasons and budget as well. Meetcheap, for example, well, GoToWebinar, $99 a month. Meetcheap, $9 a month. Yeah, oh, sorry, $9.99 a month. It's actually $10 a month. So, you know, that just gives you an example of the range available to you. Okay, so let's have a look at automated platforms. If you're going to be running automated webinars, my favorite by far is Evergreen Business Systems, which is the is just an incredible system for Evergreen automated webinars, because it's got such great marketing capabilities. It's a bit tricky sometimes to set up because it's so good, quite frankly. But it's one of those things you just got to consider the marketing abilities and the analytics as well. Webinar Ignition is an automated system using Google Hangouts. So you've got to be comfortable with using Google Hangouts to use this one. Stealth Seminar is actually, again, can be quite pricey, and from looking at it, it doesn't have the same marketing capabilities as Evergreen does. Okay, so those are platforms. Finally, let's have a look at promotion. Actually, not finally, step 4, promotion. Two big parts of promotion, and again, just don't have time to go into all of this right now. But number one, you've got to get people to register, and that's what most people focus on. But it's not just about getting people to register. You know, you actually also have to think about, once they've registered, you have to get them to attend. And this is where actually the Evergreen automated webinar is really good, because it is so much easier to get people to show up on a on an automated one, because they've chosen the time themselves. Okay, what I want to do now is just show you on the profit side of things. Okay, obviously you've got to put together a presentation which is designed to sell, but a lot of the money is in the follow-up, and also you can repurpose webinars by taking the series and putting them together and making a product out of them. But let's have a look at ways of how you can actually earn money from your webinars. First of all, I told you I would show you exactly how I made my $16,000 plus. All of these examples I'm going to give you are based on 100 people attending. Now, I got 100 people onto a webinar. That was the maximum capacity. Actually, in hindsight, I should have run more or made it evergreen, because I had 535 registrations and I only had 100 seats available. But on that webinar, I sold 29 units of a product that was $47, and that gave me $1,363. There was a deadline, and after the deadline, it went up to $97, but 2 people still bought it at that price which gave me an extra $194. Now, that on its own gave me in the region of, what you're looking at, just over $2,500, just over $1,500, which was about £930. And I can guarantee you, I felt pretty good about that. But then one of the things that my mentor suggested, this is one of the advantages of working with a mentor, I was encouraged to put a follow-up process in place to get people into my mentoring program. So I did that, and I recruited one VIP client who paid for the entire year up front. I mean, back then, I mean, crikey, the amount that I was charging for a year's mentoring was ridiculously low. But there you go. It was $2,745 for the entire year. And then I got 4 people into the program where they signed up to a program where they paid $247 a month for 12 months, which, if you say $247 times 12 times 4 people, that's 11,856, which the total value of the sale that I made within about 2 to 3 weeks from the back of that one webinar was $16,158. Now, that's not all in the bank in one go. But what it gave me was a cash injection of somewhere around 4,000, just over $4,000. And then the rest was a monthly income, which was brilliant, because then that was a monthly income which just carried on, and I didn't have to, I didn't have to keep making those sales over and over again. So the value of the sale was all there on that one webinar, which gave me a cash injection plus a regular monthly income, which, let me tell you, was very, very welcome indeed. Okay, let's look at some other examples though. You might sell, for example, 25 units at $47, so you might not sell it quite as many as I did. But then what you might do is, instead of selling just the VIP program, you might want to sell a mid-price ticket. So you could say have a product which is $297 and sell 5 of those. So you might sell your $47, and then through offering a strategy session that you work with people afterwards, you might sell five, or this can be on the thank you page as an upsell, which will give you, say, $1,485. And then you might just recruit one person into a coaching or mentoring program at $2,500. So that's going to give you just over $5,000. Okay, not as much as what, as the amount that I had when I first implemented everything I'd learned, but still a very nice pay packet. Another example, you might actually now decide to sell something at $97 and sell a few less of them. Generally, the more the price goes up, the less you can, the fewer in numbers you're going to sell. But 20 at $97 is actually still giving you a whacking great income of nearly 2,000. And let's say you upsell 3 people, that's all, just 3 people to a $497 product or program. That's another nearly $1,500. And then again, you could just recruit one person into a higher ticket mentoring program at nearly $4,000, and that now is going to give you a total of $7,500. Okay, so again, you've got different combinations and different ways that you can do this. What if you've got no product to sell? You can still use a webinar. What you can do instead is encourage people to take up a free strategy session. So on 100 people attending a webinar, it should be fairly easy to get 30 of those to book a free half-an-hour strategy session with you, from which you could probably recruit 5 people into a higher level coaching or mentoring program that you've got, say, which is a whole year at $5,000. And that is not a lot of money for a mentoring program. A lot of people, their mentoring program for the whole year is $10,000 or $20,000. You know, I've even seen 50,000. So believe me, $5,000 for a year's mentoring is actually not that much at all. You know, in fact, you could very easily, you know, offer that for a 90-day or a 6-month program. So all you've got to do is sell 5 and you've got a nice hefty income of nearly $25,000. So it doesn't matter if you haven't got a membership site, you haven't got a product, you know, obviously that's where you want to be aiming towards, so that you're not just selling your you know, trading your time for income. But in the meantime, if your time is all you've got, you can still get ahead on webinars and start earning some, you know, really good healthy money from it. Okay, I hope all of that makes sense. So to recap then, oh, and by the way, all of that is multiplied by the number of times you can get 100 people to attend your webinar. So, I mean, just think of the potential. And this is why people get to 6- and 7-figure incomes through running webinars, both automated and live, you know, online. All right, so to recap, if you're struggling at all to get as many clients as you would like, and you want your business to soar, you need webinars. In order to run successful webinars, you need to be following the 5 Ps of planning, presentation, platform, promotion, and profit. So if you're great at what you do, but you're still not getting the clients, if you're still having to supplement your coaching with other work, if you're fed up of wasting time and money on methods that are not producing results, and if you're starting to have any lack of confidence in your ability, and if what you want instead is to start attracting clients easily without being pushy or salesy, if you want to find webinars easy and even easier by putting them on automated, if you want to have attendees rushing to hit that buy now button, and you know, if you really want to discover a process that easily converts into high paying clients, so you can finally begin making that difference, you can finally have the income and lifestyle you promised yourself and be that great role model, walking your talk, then you need my wicked webinar blueprint. Okay, and my wicked webinar blueprint is, as I said, based all around these 5 Ps. So what do you need to work on? How committed are you to running profitable webinars and standing out as the go-to person in your field? Because what you do need to do now is take the knowledge and skills and your competence and confidence to the next level. Okay, and to make life easier, you need to really consider automated evergreen webinars. Okay, so now I've got some great gifts again that I'm going to give you at the end. I've got that fabulous webinar planning template to give you, and I can also give you a link where you can get your hands on a webinar platform report, so you know you can make choosing that easier. And if you want to you know, I'm also going to tell you in a little while what to focus on to make automated webinars really work for you. But first of all, let me tell you how you can get the full in-depth information that I haven't had time to cover on this particular webinar. So membership of the Wicked Webinars program is $397. Okay, and for that you're going to get the entire blueprint. And as I said before, it's a combination of proven theories that work, plus my own insights, my own experiences. And remember, this is not just for the big gurus, you know, who've got, you know, the massive contacts. You can earn really good money when you're starting out. So let me tell you what it contains. Everything you need to know, whether you're running live or automated webinars. It goes through the 5 Ps in a lot of detail. There's video tutorials. I've got PDF guides for you to follow. There's the not only is the planning template, which I'm going to give you now for free anyway, but there is a complete webinar presentation template so that you've got the structure so that you can follow it, so that you can really put together a presentation that sells. I've got an in-depth review for you of the popular platforms, and even better, I've got techie tutorials on many of the popular platforms, including GoToWebinar, Evergreen, Webinar Jam, and others. Okay, I've got some pre-recorded Evergreen webinars that you can get your hands on, so all the archives of webinars that I've done in the past. There's some bonus training material. I've got a great presentation from Mike Filsane there for you to watch. On top of that, I include monthly training webinars, so that instead of this being something that you forget about, if you tune into every month, it's going to get you going and get you doing them. And of course, I'm going to give you automatic updates, because the webinar world is changing all of the time. I've had some great testimonials from people. I've been very lucky to work with some people, and one of the webinars that I put recently, somebody put up on Facebook. This is really unsolicited. I've just watched one of the best webinars I've seen in months. Okay, the rest you can just read and digest. But imagine if somebody posted on Facebook or Google Plus or wherever that kind of thing about a webinar that you ran. How great would that be? Another lady that I've worked with, she beforehand wouldn't even contemplate the idea of running webinars. She just said, no, not for me, way too scary. But in the end, I persuaded her to work with me to get the Wicked webinars. And now she's delivered 5 webinars and really, really enjoyed them. Her confidence has rocketed, and she is now, selling her programs online and delivering them using webinars as well, which for me is brilliant. I'm so confident about the Wicked Webinars blueprint that if you get it and decide it's not for you, I'm going to give you your money back. No questions are, asked. If you don't like it within 30 days, it's a 30-day guarantee, and I will give you your money back. But even better, how about if I set up your Evergreen webinar for you? So, before you go rushing off to kind of get the Wicked webinars, I can do your Evergreen webinar for you. That means for you, there is no live presenting, no technology to learn, no live techno mishaps to worry about, which means no frustration, no headaches, and no time drain. How good would that be? So before I send you off to have a look at Wicked webinars, what you need to do is consider letting me do it for you, because I will throw the Wicked webinars program in. Now, here's how it works. What you have to do is you have to get, obviously, the Evergreen Business System platform. Send me your admin and login details. You send me a video that you've pre-recorded, that you've spent, and you can take as many times getting that video right as you want. So there's no stress of having to do it live. You just send me a photo, your autoresponder code, and a link to your sales page. And then I will set it all up for you. Okay, now if you're going for one of the higher, there's a few options that I've got, and if you're going for one of the higher levels, you can include what we call a social sharing bonus. So if people spread the word of your webinar virally, then you can unlock a bonus for them. So obviously I would need to know what your free gift is to unlock that, and then I do the rest. And here is the thing as well. If you don't want to buy Evergreen Business Solutions because you don't think you're going to use it that often, you only want one webinar, and you just want one webinar that's just going to run and run and run, instead of buying it, it's $497. I can host it for you on mine for a monthly fee of $47 a month. And then what I will also do is send you the monthly reports so that you get the analytics, and so that you can decide what's working and what isn't working. So that's where you drive your traffic, what traffic you're using, and you can even change the video. Okay, so let's look at the options available for you then. Now, there are 3 different levels. We've got standard, plus, and super. The standard includes me doing all of the webinar techie setup for you. So what you're going to get is you don't have to do anything. As I said, you just send me the login details. Or if you're going for the option where you host it on mine, I will sort out all of the setting up for you. You just send me the video and I do the rest. And that means I'll set up the registration page with the copy on it for you. I'll set up the thank you page. I'll set up the email reminders and a countdown page in case anybody tries to log on early and then they get a countdown clock, or telling them to either bookmark the page and come back later, or to just leave the page open, and then when the countdown clock goes to 0, then they'll automatically be in. Okay, the plus version includes putting in this social sharing bonus. Now, what that means is on your thank you page, which says, "Hey, thank you for registering for the webinar. Your place is reserved." What you can do is offer a bonus, which is unlocked if people share the details of your webinar. So you can give them the option of a free gift, and all they have to do is either send the details of your webinar to 3 people or however many you choose actually, by email, or they can share it on their Facebook or their Twitter account, and that will unlock the bonus. So I'll set that up for you as well if you choose the plus version. The other thing that I'll do if you choose the plus version is give you a critique of your webinar video to make sure that it's the best that it can be and likely to bring in sales, because remember, the presentation is really important. So what will happen is you do your video, send it to me, and then what I'll do is I'll critique it and say, okay, this bit is brilliant, I love that bit, but do you know what, I think this bit you should change and say this instead, or just put some more energy in your voice in that part, and so or maybe change the order of things a little bit here, there, or change the graphic on your slides or whatever. If you decide to go for the super version, I'll give you 2 critiques. So that I critique the video, send it back to you, you do another video and send it to me, and then I'll critique it again so that we really get it tweaked and honed to perfection and to a likelihood that it really will sell. And also in the super version, we can put a video on your registration page, and I'll critique that for you as well. So the normal investment for this is $497 for standard, $747 for plus, and $997 for super. And that's really reasonable because this is a lot of work for me individually per person. Each webinar is obviously going to, it's going to, depending on whether you go for standard or super, it's going to be anything between a half a day and a full day's work for me to set this up for you. However, for the first 3 to apply, because obviously I'm beta testing this and I need to know how it's going to work in reality, the first 3 just to apply get those discounts. So it's only $297 for standard, $497 for plus, and $747 for super. And what you've got to remember, guys, is this means that you can have a webinar literally within a week. If you choose standard, probably because of the to and froing of videos a little bit longer if you choose plus or super, but you can have a video up and running within no time at all that could potentially earn you thousands. All you have to then do is drive the traffic to it. So if that's something that sounds like a good plan, then that's the link you need. That will appear below the webinar here in a little pop-up button, but if you want to write it down and have a look at it later, that is the actual link that you need. So I hope that's given you all the information you need, and look forward to potentially working with you very shortly. Now, while you're mulling all that over, I just wanted to also tell you that if you go for the done for you option, I will also give you lifetime access to my Wicked Webinars Profitable Webinar Blueprint membership site. And that, as I say, is now going on sale for $397. So if you do your done for you, you'll get that automatically included. Right, now, I did mention I was going to come back and give you some extra information and freebies at the end of the webinar. So I want to tell you a little bit more about profiting. Okay, there's some things you really need to focus on, and this is where automated webinars really come in handy. Some things you need to focus on to get maximum profit out of your webinars is, first of all, looking at your conversion rates. So when people go to your registration page, how many of them visit your page and sign up compared to how many visit your page and then leave? Okay, if you're getting low conversion rates of your registration page, then obviously we need to look at your copy, your headline, and all of that kind of stuff to make it more compelling. The other thing that you need to look at is the show rate on your webinar. You need to be looking at how many people have registered as to how many people actually turn up. Now, the show rate is always a lot lower. Certainly for live webinars, you're doing well if you get a third of the people who've registered to actually show up. On an automated webinar, you've probably got a good chance of getting more because they've chosen a time rather than it being a time that you've set. The next thing that you need to look at is the stick rate of your webinar. In other words, how long are people staying with you through the webinar? You know, at what point are they dropping out? If, you know, your stick rate's not that great, you need to be looking at, okay, is the webinar too long? And you know, you can have a long webinar as long as the information that you're giving is good and you're holding interest. But if what you want to do is look at what point are people dropping out, because that might be the point that you need to look at. Well, I need to get, you know, more interest there, or I need to give them the reason to continue listening. And then what you need to do is you need to look at the conversion of the sales on your webinar. It's not necessarily about the number that turn up, but it's about the number of people who buy from the people who've turned up. And then afterwards, of course, you need to look at your follow-up. What have you got in follow-up? You know, email campaigns, strategy sessions, and all that kind of thing. And how are you converting and upselling? Because this is where a lot of the money comes from with your webinars. All right, so I've given you an awful lot of information. I know this has been a long webinar, and if you're still with me, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you giving up your time, but I hope you feel that it is time that has been well invested, because if you implement what you've learned on this webinar, then you really will start to earn an awful lot more money online than what you've probably been doing up until now. Okay, so let me just remind you then the choices. You can let me do it all for you by going to that link. It's all webinardiva.com, and then the bit after the / at the end is EDFY, Evergreen Done For You, that stands for. So go and visit that if you fancy letting me do all the hard work for you. Or you can do it yourself the easy way, which is, again, go and to the same site, webinardiva.com, but / wicked webinars, so WW at the end, and you can, you know, learn an awful lot of information in there, which is going to help you still, you know, do it all yourself, but do it the easy way. Or you can do it yourself, but it's probably going to be a bit more slow and a bit more difficult by just taking the information that I've given you this evening on this particular webinar and just do it yourself. All right, so those are the choices that you've got. If you've got any questions, you can either go and join my Facebook group, which again, follow that link, FBWW at the end of webinardiva.com, and I will, you know, come and join the group and I'll answer any questions that you've got. Or you can type some questions in the box underneath here, and those will be emailed to me. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for coming on to this webinar and for sticking right the way through to the end. I hope I've given you a lot to think about. I hope you've really enjoyed it, and that I've given you enough stuff to actually go away and start implementing and really putting your webinars together. There would be nothing I would love more than to hear that, you know, how you've been getting on, that you've run successful webinars and that you've started earning some income from them. So do please keep in touch and let me know how you've gone on. So that's it then. With no further ado, I shall say cheerio, and I look forward to seeing you on some other webinar.